Call this meeting in order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Was there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, from the original agenda, Mr. Mayor, if you go to item N, under action items, item N is a new change.
Okay. Okay, get a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Open forum. Does anybody want to come up and speak? All right, we're on the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes, approval of bills and purchase orders, approval of the investments, tobacco license, tri-cap bus service agreement. Then F is resolution number 2023-67, a donation of $1,500 from the Melrose Lions to the Melrose Area Chamber of Commerce. Say thank you for supporting our community. Part-time streets, parks, maintenance, worker step increase, MMUA contract. Is there any questions? Can I get a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. It is 6:02. We do have a public hearing going on. The 2024 budget and levy, resolution number 2023-68, resolution adopting the tax levy of the 2023 budget for 2024 through 2028 5-year capital improvement, truth and taxation presentation. Hi, Ryan.
Oh, all right. It is time for our annual Truth and Taxation meeting. So the purpose of this hearing is to let the public hear more information and be involved in the budget process. So to do that, we typically meet with the council twice a year, once in August and again in November. We review the budget, we look more in detail at it and discuss our plans for the future and how we want to approach those plans. And then in September, we also adopt the preliminary budget, and that is sent to Stearns County, which allows them to notify every resident with their preliminary tax statements. So the budget process, when we're doing the budget, our goal is to be as realistic as we can, looking at all funding sources as well as our future spending needs. And we also complete a capital plan where we look out 5 years, and then we also look out 5 to 10 years and try to save up and best plan for those projects that will be coming up. So the goal of all this is to keep the tax rate as stable as possible and avoid the large swings that affect the taxpayers. So tonight, the purpose of the hearing is to go over the 2024 budget, the proposed tax levy, and discuss any changes to that. And we'll also allow for the public comments or questions on the proposed budgets, and we'll go over all those as well. So I'll give a brief summary real quick of property taxation. So first of all, tax capacity. This is the overall value of all the properties that are right here within the city limits of Melrose. We get that information from Stearns County. They give us that amount, and we take that amount and our current tax levy to calculate the current tax rate. The tax rate is what we apply to each property to determine each individual's tax liability. So let's take a look at our neighboring, we also take a look at our neighboring communities and how we compare. Please note that I didn't have any of their final 2024 numbers, so these are just carried over from 2023. But if you look, Melrose is the dotted line, and we're down in the lower portion compared to our neighbors as well. So, we did receive the market value from the county this year, and there was an increase. The market value was estimated at $272 million for the city of Melrose. So, as mentioned, we also get this tax capacity amount from the county to determine what the rate will be. For 2024, that is estimated at $3,112,000, which is a slight increase over last year. Last year, there was a lot bigger jump in the tax capacity. So, when residents and taxpayers in town get their tax statements, there may be some increases, and there's a number of reasons for that. Melrose is just one portion of your overall tax bill. There's also could be changes for county taxes, the school district taxes, any special districts or special assessments that get added to your tax statement. So, yeah, there are a number of different reasons why tax varies from year to year. So let's take a look at the levy for 24. So right now for the general fund for 2024, the levy is estimated at 1.4 million. I'm too far ahead. 1.4 million. That is a $50,000 increase over 2023. The debt levy is still set at 90,000, which is the same as last year. So the total proposed tax levy for 2024 is $1,490,000, which is a $50,000 increase. However, due to the increase in the tax capacity, the tax rate actually decreases almost 2%. So all other factors aside, if you don't look at the county, the school district, home value changes and all the other stuff, the average resident shouldn't see a real big jump in their taxes from last year to this year. As I mentioned, we do have a tax levy. The city has one governmental bond. The balance of that bond is at $720,000 and will be paid off in 2028. So 2027 will be the last time that we have to levy for the tax or for our bond. Overall, the city also has one other bond, a revenue bond in the utility funds, which is through the Minnesota Public Facilities Authority. Taxpayers are not liable for this debt, and they're paid for by user charges out of the sewer fund. So we can take a look at our tax levy through the years. You can see that from 2015 to 2020, there was some minor changes, slight increases and decreases. But in 2021, there was a larger jump, and this was due to a lot of unknowns at the time with market values, market conditions, and whether or not the state would actually be withholding local government aid at that time. In 2022, it was decreased after looking at our fund balances and reserve amounts. So it was a planned decrease that year. Now we are building back the levy slowly but surely to try and get to that balanced budget by 2028. We are still spending down reserves to get to that ideal level and building back the levy to get to the balanced budget. So this slide shows our tax rates. I am way ahead. Yeah. This slide shows our tax rates over the years. In 2015, it was at 71.54%. I'm missing a slide. Missing a slide. That's okay. We'll go back and we're looking at the budget for next year. General fund revenues. The general fund, we are budgeted just over 3.4 million in revenues, which is a 10% increase over 2023. But if we look at the actual sources of those revenues, property taxes are the main thing people think of when they think of revenues for the city. That only makes up 41% of our total budget. 37% of our total budget comes from state aids, including local government aid. And then also another 15% up is made up of our franchise fees from our electric department. So a portion of every electric bill gets transferred over to the general fund every month as bills go up. So as I mentioned, about 37% of our revenues comes from local government aid and other state aids. This shows the history of LGA, which has been pretty consistent the last 10 years or so, but it did take a large jump this year. With this year's legislative session, we'll be seeing an extra $200,000 in LGA in 2024. So for expenditures, we are budgeting $3.5 million for 2024, which is an increase of approximately 12% over 2023. And relates mostly to the areas of planning and zoning, capital projects, streets, and administration. So if we were to look at where those funds are going, in the general fund, 25% is spent on public safety. 30% of it is getting transferred out, so that would be for funding capital improvements or development projects, as well as other supporting the other city funds. So the streets make up 19% of the expenditures, and administration makes up another 16%. So looking at the history of expenditures over the years, there have been increases related to increased capital spending, as well as overall increases in personnel costs, supply costs, etc. So you can see that some of the changes through budgeted expenditures throughout the year, they kind of depend on what we have going on for capital projects and things throughout the years. So that was a summary of the general fund, but the city also has several other funds that are supported by the city council. So there are a number of special revenue funds. The ones with the most activity in them include the MATA fund, which accounts for development projects, and also our fire and ambulance departments fall in the special revenue funds. There are also a number of state aid and grant funds that are accounted for in special revenue funds, something like the CBD grant, the ARPA fund, etc. So we also have our capital project fund, with the main one being the capital improvement fund, which accounts for almost all the city's capital needs. You can see that the expenditures exceed revenues by just over 1.6 million next year, which is the spend down of some of the reserves that we talked about earlier. The remainder are TIF funds for various development projects throughout the city. So, and finally, we have our one debt service fund, which is just levy and then the payment for debt. So that one's pretty easy. The city council does not oversee the utility funds, but to show you the overall picture for the city, the Melrose Public Utilities Commission has approved the budget for 2024, and overall there hasn't been a whole lot of changes to revenues or expenses, but you will notice there's a pretty big decrease next year, the electric fund, just the timing of projects and stuff. Not as many planned for 2024, so. And then looking forward, one thing we really try to look at is not just the budget and the levy for the next year, but also looking out and planning for the future. So we look at what our estimated growth will be, what our tax capacity will be, and we look at what we will need to levy for both the general and the bond outstanding, and where that tax rate works out. The goal is to keep that rate as neutral as possible and not to have those large swings from year to year that would affect the taxpayer. So the current plan is to keep the rate relatively flat through 2027, which is the final year for our debt levy, and hopefully be back at a balanced budget by 2028. So, and then finally, our capital project, capital improvement fund. Just a quick summary of our capital improvement fund. As mentioned earlier, we have one main fund, which is kind of a savings account for these projects. We transfer money annually to the general fund to be saved for these projects. Throughout the year and during our budget discussions, staff look at what our needs are for our projects, for equipment, and we look at how soon we're going to need it, and at other funding sources like grants and partnerships that we can take advantage of. If we need to issue debt, or if we can just cash flow these projects. So this shows a summary of the capital expenditures as well as what the reserve balances are for the next 5 years. As you can see, like next year, capital works, we have a lot of spending for a few of the street projects and stuff like that. And then the reserves is in orange. So it'll be a slight increase, but then when the spending comes back up in 2026, the reserves start to drop again. So does anybody have any questions on the proposed 2024 tax levy?
So this is the part of the public hearing where people can ask questions, we act on it in our action items.
We need to act on it during the hearing.
Okay. Tony, did you have any questions? Or
I'm
anything?
good. Appreciate it. Thanks, Ryan.
Okay. All right. So then, the council is going to act on it, so the council can take action on adopting and propose resolution prior to closing the hearing. Can I get a motion to approve it?
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And now the council to take action adopting the 2024 through 2028 five-year capital improvement plan. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Yeah, we got both of them here. So it is 6:15. Is So we will close the public hearing and open up for the next one we have, a utility easement vacation. Sheila? It is 6:15.
Okay, so we have a request from Stearns Electric Association to vacate a utility easement that is no longer needed on parcel number 66.36401.0000 at 900 Craft Drive Southeast. Representatives from Stearns Electric are here with us tonight if you have any questions. So there is a abandoned water main that runs kind of right through the middle of the property. When the water mains were redone and came under the interstate, our current water mains run along the Navy property along that road. So this water main is no longer in use. And so the request is for a vacation of that utility easement.
Okay. Is there any questions or any concerns?
No?
Do the gentleman from Stearns have anything to add, or no? Good.
Okay. So then, let's see here.
That's an action item for later.
That will be an action item. So if there's no question, it is 6:16. We will close this public hearing, but also just want to say thank you for investing back in the Melrose. We appreciate it. We're on the reports. Chief Mouse?
Good evening. November 2023, in our traffic area, we had 31 citations, 69 verbal warnings, and 6 written warnings. November 23, we had 256 call requests for service. Last year was 251, so we're up by minimal there. But 22, we ended on ICR 3201, and this year is 2676, so down overall for the year. 22 agency assists that seem to be staying consistent in those low 20s areas. Some updates for the council. Officer Dave Bonfield resigned from our department about 2 weeks ago, a week ago. He moved on to the Benton County Sheriff's Office. Decided that he wanted to get back into brown instead of wearing beautiful blue, so we wished him luck. We did open up applications for the replacement of that position. They close tomorrow at noon. We did receive a few so far. We're hoping for a couple more tomorrow morning. We'll get those evaluated. We'll be doing interviews next week. I think it was the 20th. We had those scheduled for. And we put that in with the application process so the candidates were aware to keep that available, so we can keep moving with the process. The goal would be to have a name and most, if not all, of the background stuff and everything taken care of by the January meeting. That's at the beginning where the weed inspector and everybody else gets appointed, but we may throw that on that meeting if it's possible. So that is our goal.
Okay. Is there any questions? All right.
Thanks, Greg.
City Attorney report, Scott?
So, a couple of development projects that are in the works, and I've been assisting with drafting agreements. One of the projects is, just trying to hammer out a letter of intent so that we would then start more formal negotiations. The other's a little further along where we've got a purchase agreement out there. Hopefully we'll be hearing more things later, and they'll all be positive. The other item is just, for the ambulance service, and I think we've talked about that quite a bit in the last year. The ambulance service needs a medical director, and we have a contract with Centricare to provide that. The contract we've got is expiring, and they, came back with another proposal to renew it. When we did the last one, we made several changes, which they accepted. When they submitted their new one, they basically just reached for their old form that they had used, and so we put our changes back in so that we try to stay, on the same terms. And so that's another item that's pending out there. But so that's it for the city that I've got, unless you have, council has questions.
I'm good. Thank you, Scott. Community Development Director, Sheila.
So last Thursday, December 7th, one day ahead of the deadline, we did submit our applications for the local road improvement program funds. We submitted ours for Main Street and our joint application with Melrose Township. So now we wait. Decisions are expected at the end of March. We're going to be anxious to hear those because that's about the time we're going to want to open the bids. Dave's nodding. We're going to be wanting to open the bids on the roads. So we're going to want to know whether or not we got those funds. Also working on grant applications with the Arts Council and doing some research on redevelopment possibilities. We're waiting for the state to put their people in place to administer all this money that is coming that they passed. They just don't have, it's kind of like the cannabis laws. They just need to get their people in place so that they can administer these grants and administer these programs. So we're waiting on those. We have set a community meeting for the Hispanic residents in town to talk about the comprehensive plan. It'll be all in Spanish. It is going to be on Saturday night, February 10th. Our consultant will be coming up to host that meeting. The MATA board met last week. We've started to discuss enforcement of nuisances on commercial properties, so we're going to be working on that. Other than that, it's just a lot of work on easements, cleaning up easements for work that was done this summer and looking ahead to easements that we need on projects for '24.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Dave, city engineer report.
All right, good evening. Happy to report that construction in Melrose is done as far as roadway projects are for the year. Makes everything happier when we don't have extra people digging in town, not just our buildings that are going up vertical now. So thankfully that's all taken care of for the year. I got Railroad Avenue stuff later on the agenda under action items. Quick recap on a kickoff meeting we had as staff for the 2024 Main Street project. Had group representation from all the groups, listened to all the concerns people have about snow removal, utilities on the streets, who's replaced water services, who hasn't. It's quite the history with Main Street, and it's something we're going to definitely be diving into as we do our plans here. I got the televising back from Nelson Sanitation on the existing sewer out there. There's some interesting things down there, a lot of let's call it makeshift connections to the sewer main that we can take care of the right way now that we're going to dig that bugger out. So again, nothing terribly surprising. I think there were 6 spots where they had to turn around because there was a pipe protruding into the main line. They had to come at it from the other direction. So things that we aren't surprised to see, but things we don't like to see, so we can take care of those now the project's going to happen. One more item, met with Public Works staff over on 1st Street Southeast by the bowling alley. Walked all that curve over there, got a good grasp of what we need out there. We had planned about a number of feet in our estimates that we ended up marking, so it worked out okay. Look for those things to move forward here and bidding February, March. So questions for me?
No.
Thank you. City administrator report, Clean.
So, we had someone with, that came and visited with our electric department. We were hoping we could fill that electric supervisor position. That person did not take it, so we are still looking for an electric supervisor. You know, Stearns, you guys could just probably lend us somebody or let somebody come work for us. We, as Craig said, we're advertising for a full-time police officer, so we're hoping that we can make those applications to you guys. The street supervisor is on the agenda later on, so I'll talk about that. And then just to add on to what Dave had talked about, so for the Main Street project, we would like to host an open house in January, just because it's going to be a 4-month-long project, and we just want, and it's literally going to be closed for a few blocks. There's no like one lane open, it is closed. So we just want to get it out there in front of the public as quick as we can, make them aware of it, and so we thought it would be good to have an open house sometime in January for that particular project. So other than that, the rest of my items will be later on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we are on to action items. Ordinance number 1214, 2023, an ordinance summarizing and reaffirming the fees for the city license permits and services, establishing a schedule of fines, and providing review, modifications, and amendment. Anybody want to talk about that, or was there any concerns?
Just real quick, this is, we went over the actual list last meeting, right? Now, because I had a question on the building permit one. Is that a brand-new fine? Okay, so we've never had a fine in there for building permits before.
Correct.
Okay. Did we base that on some other standard community?
Other cities, local cities, what they were charging.
Okay, so they're basically doing the same thing? Okay. I just want to make sure you're not going way over, because, some building permits are pretty expensive, so if you double the fee, I mean, obviously, it's a great incentive to get a permit in the first place, but just want to make sure we're not over penalizing something that may not need it, so, but that's all I had.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Are you making a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
I'll
Aye.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Resolution number 2023-69, resolution vacating easement over by Stearns Electric. Is there any questions or concerns? I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Resolution number 2023-70, resolution approving active transportation. Is there anything need to be said on that?
Let's see.
Yeah, I'm just following up on that one. It's a formality that the state needs from us to formally agree to accept the grant application, is really all that agreement is saying.
Yeah.
And again, that's a pass-through grant with Stearns County.
And that's for the sidewalk up by the school.
It is for the sidewalk by the school.
That will get done first thing in the spring.
First thing in the spring.
As soon as we can. Yep. I've been getting a couple phone calls yet on that, so I'm just going to reaffirm that we want that done. I think all of us have.
Well, if we don't get any snow, it'll be in pretty soon.
Just ask real quick, are there any, did anything stick out as far as long-term maintenance?
No, the only thing this
Along the-
grant requires is safety. So the ped ramps,
Okay.
it's safety more
Yeah.
than, there's no other ties to it.
But no long-term, like, natural vegetation where we can't cut it for 5 years type
No,
stuff? Okay.
none of that.
I know that happens a lot along, like, waterways and stuff, so,
Nice.
sounds good. Thanks.
Can you get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Action item to give approval for the City of Melrose sick leave policy, the City of Melrose non-DOT drug, alcohol, cannabis testing policy, which will become effective January 1st, 2024 by state law. Correct?
Correct.
So, yeah, two separate things there, yep.
So there was, updates to our sick policy. We just made that conform to the new earned sick and sick time requirements for this Minnesota State Legislature. And then we also modified the drug, alcohol, and cannabis testing policy for the new state laws as well. So those were all done using the league's templates, and we had our attorneys look them over as well.
Okay. Any questions? Can I get a motion to approve that?
Make a motion.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. So the council to give approval for the City of Melrose Uniform Grant Guidance Policy regarding federal reserve sources, revenue sources.
Last year's audit resulted in a single audit finding for not having written internal controls over allowable costs, time and effort requirements, cash management, and conflicts of interest that were specific to federal awards. Uniform guidance requires that these be in writing and specific to the federal awards. So this new policy meets all the requirements of the uniform guidance.
Okay, so is this kind of using a lot of wording? I mean, did they write this, or did we write this?
It was, I wrote this using a number of templates.
Oh, okay, so there was only one thing that caught my mind in there, and it says, "The city must take all necessary affirmative steps to assure that minority businesses, women's business, enterprise, and labor surplus area firms are used when possible." And I just want to make sure that whatever we use those funds for, if somebody perceives it as we didn't do this, will it come back in some type of a negative, or is that like wording that is required as part of the internal?
That's required by.
That's required,
the
okay.
guidance. It's right in the budget requirements.
Yeah. The only reason I say that is because there's a lot of this going on in the world, and there's a lot of people being given jobs and contracts, and stuff, and they're not qualified. Strictly based on box checking, basically. That you have this, you have that, and they're not capable of doing the job. So that's where, anybody's interested, look at what's going on at Harvard right now and their president. So it's quite an interesting ordeal, so if it has to be in there, I guess it has to be in there. Okay.
All right, can I get a motion to approve?
So,
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Might as well just stay out there for the next two, Ryan.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So the next one is gonna be, the ambulance department has reviewed, updated volunteer ambulance department policies and procedures, and it has been reviewed by staff and recommended for approval. Is there anything to be said?
Nope, that was just kind of cleaning it up to follow common practices and procedures that we are currently using.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are on to G, resolution number 2023-71, transfer of funds and committing funds balances for specific purposes.
Yeah, there's a couple of transfers that I was hoping to do at year end. One is within the ambulance fund to move some money out of the undesignated unreserved fund and back into their equipment fund, which is sitting at negative at the end of the year. There's also a transfer to close out the Fifth Avenue Bridge Improvement Project, which is the bridge and dam over here. And then finally, a transfer to the fire remediation fund, now that those have been paid out as well.
Okay. Any questions or concerns?
I had a concern, but you just answered it, because the way this was kind of written in the summary, it looked like there was funds from the ambulance potentially being used put into a project fund. But it's not, it's undesignated ambulance to ambulance purposes, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's all within that department.
Right, sounds good.
All right. Motion to approve?
Make a motion.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Night vision cameras, Craig.
Yes, we are asking for the council's consideration to purchase cameras that would mount onto the spotlights that are currently on our squad cars. They would give us the ability to use infrared technology and those sorts of things to look at warm things and things in the dark much better than what we currently are able to do with our spotlights. Sheriff's Office has been using these for several years. They've had good luck. Stock Center has been putting them on their cars. We just never had because of the price tag that would be associated with them. So we've been going off of what we currently use in our squads and getting by. But with the public safety money that's available, this would be a purchase we'd use with that. My recommendation is to go with the company out of Nevada for $14,000 as opposed to the $16,250 on the other side. I did ask why there was a significant price difference. If the equipment was older, whatever else, they said it's the same equipment, but they buy them by the semi-load. The other companies are buying them as part of a overall product they offer amongst numerous other things, so they just don't buy them in the volume that the other company does. So that's why there's cost savings on that side.
Are you able to take them out of the cars, or are they hard mounted?
They get, basically they're just attached. Some housing things come off and get attached, so they could be transferred onto other cars as well. Longevity to them is about 6 years is what a lot of departments are getting from, because they are exposed to the elements. The lenses get retired after a while, so maybe some upgrades in the future, but at least get a start on them for now.
So do these need light to work, or are they truly night vision where they don't even know you're looking in whatever direction?
No, they're not the green military,
Okay.
No.
That's what I was wondering,
Yeah,
if it's-
they operate more off of heat signatures than anything.
Okay, more infrared, okay.
Right.
Sounds good.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Paramedic hire, who would like to talk about
I'll
that?
take care of that one, the next two. So Coordinator Gina Eggert is requesting approval be given to appoint Adam Fedek as step one as paramedic to the ambulance department, contingent upon successful background check, pre-employment physical, and drug test. Mr. Fedek is a paramedic, so we just recently received, obviously, our ALS licensure, and he would be able to be on the roster for ALS transfers. So he also is a Stearns County Sheriff,
Okay.
right? Yep.
All right. Any questions or concerns? Can you get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. And then on for transport nurse hire.
Yes, so again, to fill out the roster for our ALS transfers, I'm requesting approval be given to appoint Gina Eggert at step 1 as transport nurse to the ambulance department. Ms. Eggert is a current EMT with the ambulance, therefore we will not need to do the background check, pre-employment, or drug test. And I'm recommending council approve that as well.
Great. Okay, get a motion.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. CNL Excavating Incorporated Pay App number 1 and a change order number 1.
Yeah. So this is the change order for the granite rock that we found out on site. We had originally estimated about 200 yards, it ended up being about 258 cubic yards of granite that we had to haul on site in order for it to get out of the way of our sanitary sewer. So this is the one and only payment for 2023 for CNL Excavating, and then also the payment for the change order as well.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, are they the only ones that did this kind of work in this immediate area, I suppose? I was just curious, because it's, what was it, 59,000?
43, just under 50.
Whatever. You know, because we didn't really get any quotes on that, right?
No, and really, with it being within a contract, we don't have a lot of leverage to do so. There's coordination things and, concerns for,
Right.
claims for delays and that kind of stuff. So it's more efficient to just have the general contractor take care of it.
Okay, so that was kind of a negotiated change order.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And there really
It's
isn't a lot of
It's a big pill
people
to
that do
swallow.
this.
Because that, obviously,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something they think of in the first place when they're bidding the job, that there might be granite under there or not, but core drills didn't show it, right?
Exactly. We didn't hit it with our Swiss cheese that we tried to make out of the road. And
Right.
It's unfortunate, but it seems like we never hit the right thing when it comes to soil.
Right. Okay.
All right, can you get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Matt, member appointment, Jose Morales.
On Tuesday, December 5th, Julie Baum notified staff of her need to leave as a member of the MATA board. The 6 a.m. start time was really just not something that worked for her. So the mayor, with council approval upon recommendation of MATA, can fulfill a vacancy. And so, Mayor Finken, this is your action item.
Yes, so I would like to see Jose on that board for the fill in the remainder till December 31st, 2025. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any questions?
Well, I just had, was there any other interest? I mean,
I did
Well-
talk to one other person, and he decided not to fill it out then, so.
okay. A lot of time we advertise, for vacancies on MATA.
Yeah, and
Wait
it's
for-
not even a full term. It's only
Okay.
for another year, so it's just.
Oh, so that's just filling the.
Yeah, it's just to fill in the
vacancy till next year,
2025, and
once
then
it-
it's, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
so. So there's a first and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion was carried. Resolution number 2023-72, resolution adopting the Minnesota General Records retention schedule and adopting electronic filings and permanent retention method records retention policy. Does anybody want to?
So since 2022, the city of Melrose has been using Laserfiche for document storage and would like this to be the permanent archives, with the caveat that there are certain things that we're still going to go in the vault, meeting minutes being one of them. But as part of the process, staff is requesting that the council pass a resolution regarding records retention and the use of Laserfiche. So that is what is before you this evening.
Okay. Is there any questions or concerns?
Oh,
Can I get a motion to approve?
So
Make a
moved.
mo- Second?
Perfect. All in
Motion.
favor, say
Did
aye.
you get that?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is carried. Street Park Supervisor hire.
So there were 3 applications were received for the Streets Park Supervisor position. Interviews were conducted on Thursday, December 7th. An offer was made to Mr. Andrew Rusling at step 1 on the wage scale with 3 weeks of vacation, of which 40 hours would be preloaded for 2024. At 6 months of employment and a favorable job evaluation, Mr. Rusling would be moved to step 2 with further steps to be made annually. Mr. Rusling has accepted the position.
Okay. Is there any questions?
He would start January 3rd.
All right,
I'll make a motion.
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That's one hair off your back there now, Gary. So, all right, there is no old business, we're on to new business. Fire department officer appointments.
So officers' terms expire every 2 years. The terms will expire on January 1st, 2024. Therefore, applications for first assistant chief, second assistant chief, and training officer were accepted through October 15th. No new applications were received, therefore Chief Bodie is recommending the following appointments. Joe Wasty be appointed as first assistant chief, Carl Worms as second assistant chief, Corey Beckers as training officer. I'll make that recommendation that the council approves.
Yes, and all four of them have been doing a very good job with their department. It's been a good, for even me, I've been really excited to be part of the fire department. It's been great, so. Looking for a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Informational
yep.
items first, then we can go back.
So we're gonna do, there's informational items, which is the utility commission meeting minutes, and then we do have to go into a closed meeting. It's for paid for performance agreement. So, before that, I just wanna wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and hopefully we have another good, exciting year for Melrose next year. So can I get a motion to close the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. It is 6:42 PM.